I'm going to start the meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Is it ready? Where's our guy? Oh. I'll call this meeting to order. It's 4 o'clock. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? They're over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we have a moment of silence for those who perished during 9/11? Thank you. We'll now introduce the board members. Terry, would you like to start?
Terry Thomas, District 2.
Brenda Latson Powell, District 1.
Shauna Culpa, District 6.
Miller, District 10.
Janine Mutterer, District 9.
Joe Bogus, District 11.
Bernie Cole, District 3.
So I am Dickman, your library director, and we do have a guest. I want to go ahead and turn it over to Barb. Let you introduce yourself to this board as the new president of the Hilton Head Friends of the Library.
It's nice to meet all of you. I'm Barb Foley, very new to library management and being on the Friends Board, and I'm very happy to be on the board as the new incoming president, or the new president now. With fortunately Linda and a lot of good talent backing me up and teaching me along the way. My background is law firm management. I ran a law firm, an intellectual property law firm, for many, many, many years. At the end of we're an international firm, so during my time at the last firm, which was 26 years, I was usually on the road traveling from Munich to Washington, D.C. to Pennsylvania. And during COVID, we bought our place here on the island. We're in Hilton Head Plantation. And we bought it with the idea that it would be a vacation home. And we were here for 6 months and said, why do we ever want to go back to Philadelphia? And so we sold the house and stayed here, and I just traveled around from here and finally retired in June, as I said, the end of June. So I'm happy to all, and
We welcome you. As you all know, the Friends are very important for support for the library, so we're happy to have you on board. Thank you.
yeah. And as I told Amanda and Lynn, you know, I'm not afraid to be taught or told to do something differently, or this is how, I'm very used to board work, but on a much different level. Through a major association that I was with, and I was on the board of our law firm, and that's a little different, so. Yeah. So it's nice to meet you all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm going to, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, we have company in, and I'm going to scoot back out. Is that all right with you?
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. We'll see you again.
All righty, have a great meeting.
Is there there's no public comment? Could I hear a motion for approval of the minutes that were sent out? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, the minutes are approved. Any correspondence? All right. May we have the library director, the library director's report now.
All right, I have a lot of fun information to share with you, so I'm going to be utilizing the screens behind me, and for those watching, you'll see the information on the screen that you're watching, but I do hope that you'll enjoy what I have to present to you. It's been 2 months since we last met, and so we wrapped up summer, and we are now fully into the fall, looking ahead at a lot more fun, exciting events, but I do want to kind of give you a little idea of what has happened. As customary, I will arrange that announcements and those updates aligned with the 4 goals of our strategic plan, which are communication, collection, space, and user experience. So here's a few pictures of things that have happened. You see on the screen happy people at the Samuel E. Murray Library in Port Royal. Also some individuals on the left who are some of our younger middle-aged readers, or middle school readers, I should say, participating in an event, a fun summer event at Bluffton. So let me get through our exciting updates. In terms of communication, one of the goals that we are trying to achieve is to inform and educate cardholders through print and digital media communications. Well, the news of the opening of the Port Royal Library gave us a great opportunity to do just that. We had local coverage in both the Island Packet, Beaufort Gazette, as well as the Island News. We even went so far as to be picked up in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I happen to know that because someone sent me a digital screenshot from when they opened their email and saw that Atlanta had picked that up. We also received news coverage from at least WJCL, WSAV, and we had live coverage from our Beaufort County broadcast team. So I want to give them props. Your chair, Lynn Miller, was interviewed online, so that episode or excerpt from that interview is on BCTV YouTube channel, so I'm sure they would appreciate the plug to go look at her interview. So really happy about the amount of eyes and ears and people that heard about this wonderful celebration. In terms of our collection, we are wrapping up towards presenting our annual stats to the State Library. You're going to hear more about the importance of our annual statistical reporting. But for now, I did a snapshot just of print collection, just to kind of give you an idea of what's happened from 2021 to the present. What you would notice is that we are in a significant increase in digital borrows, as well as a steady of the print circulation. In the 2024, I put a little asterisk beside our total print circulation. It's right on the cusp of 600,000. But if you'll remember, a year ago in June and July, we transitioned to a new software. And so that the accuracy of reporting of checkouts in June and July, I don't have 100% faith in the true accuracy of those numbers. So that's why I kind of give it a little asterisk there. And since we do about 50,000 to 60,000 checkouts a month of print items, that number, if I felt a little more comfortable about that 2024 number, we'd be looking at least the same number as 2023 or a little bit better. Just not 100. During that transition, the accuracy of data really is a little suspect, as we lost one platform and then started a new one, and there were several kinks. If you recall from being a library card user, there were several kinks that we worked out during that June and July period. All in all, our circulation is holding steady year to year, even showing significant increase from 2021 to now. So just wanted to let you see that. In the past year, from 2023 to 2024, just on the digital side of things, we have a 7.8% increase just in digital circulation alone, which are numbers to me that reinforce the anecdotal evidence that we hear with people asking about Hoopla and the availability of titles and how much do those cost the library and that sort of thing. One thing I would like to point out is that our ebook collection in Hoopla is knocking on the door of 1 million items that people can check out. In this last year alone, we added 161,000 ebooks to that platform. So when you start to hear numbers thrown around about how much things cost, how much money we've dedicated towards materials, think about if you had to buy 161,000 ebooks for yourself, but yet we're doing that for a whole county. So it's really fascinating about how those things work, but it's just another area that I wanted you to be familiar with and hopefully add context to the good stuff we talk about. People using books and getting books online as well as in person and what that actually looks like in context. In terms of there's a question?
Yeah, question there. The 161,000, I presume that's an internal boost by Hoopla that they just added that?
It's part what is available in their instant collection and also part what we have physically purchased as those bestsellers that are available digitally in Hoopla. Just as a reminder, since you brought it up, thank you. Hoopla has an instant collection that they make available for anybody to have with no wait. They control what titles are available that way. And then any titles that aren't available in that manner, we have to physically purchase a license for. So those show up as those flex borrows within the Hoopla app, and those are licenses we have to pay for in addition to the instant. Our third goal that we're striving to achieve in our strategic plan is related to user experience. And one of the things that we do every summer, and I'm very proud to share with you a summary, is our annual summer reading. I pushed your involvement. I tried to get you to participate. I hope you did. But I want to show put your attention on the screen so you can watch about a 60-second recap video of the fun that we had. I want to put those numbers in context. You saw a lot of fun in those pictures, a lot of smiles, and that's what we're really going after, motivating kids and adults, people of all ages and backgrounds to read, and not just read any one particular thing, but whatever they want to read. So this past year, you saw in the video, 2,188 people who completed 30 days of reading. Last year, we had 1,044. So the collective effort of every single person who comes to work every day and tries to encourage people to participate in the program, that resulted in double the amount of people participating and completing the program. A lot of people start, but it just goes to show you that it was a good program, and it kept people's interest enough to get from start to finish. You also saw that we hosted 393 programs. That's 393 programs within a 6-week period. It's a lot of things going on. And 8,321 people showed up for those. Last year, we had about 8,000 people show up for 329 programs. So that just goes to the power of having something available at your library that's of interest to people. They will show up. Kind of like how they said in the movie, if you build it, they will come. If you host it, they will come. And then you also saw the number of lunches. I don't want to let that go over understatement. The library's mission is not to be a restaurant or a food service program, but in the summer we have the opportunity to be a host for the USDA-funded Summer Lunch Cafe program. And because of that, 2,700 people, children under the age of 17, had lunch. They normally would have had that lunch at school probably, but in the summer, school's not available to them. So the power of your library at work is not only just feeding your mind, but feeding your tummy as well.
Musical director.
My musical director? Me. Oh, for the video. I thought you meant who plays music.
That was good video, good music.
We have a great marketing communications team who puts together our videos and our social media content. In terms of space, the biggest news on the block this year, or this past reporting period, has been the opening of our library in the town of Port Royal. And then we also received the library lockers you've been hearing about for so long. So let me show you a little bit of pictures from the big day. Several of you joined us for that. To give you a little bit of context, the building on Paris Avenue is occupancy of 92 people, and we had over 300 people on the lawn. It really reassured my hope that people love libraries. I hear that, but that was a visual representation of how much people do actually love their library, and this town was happy to have it. Here's a picture of the ribbon cutting moment of surprise and excitement. The wife, the widow of Mr. Murray, is beside me in that photo, holding the red ribbon. That is Mrs. Murray, and she joined us in the ribbon cutting line for that occasion. She even made pound cake, which I can attest was fantastic. There's the lawn with so many people. And you see in the bottom corner, Rachel in the blue library shirt. She's getting ready for the very first story time that took place on the lawn. We had several staff from our locations. If you've been around Beaufort County long enough, you know that is Grace Cordial, our historical resources librarian. She decided to help with crowds that day, and she helped explain library resources and also local history to people who were on hand. We had the fraternity that Mr. Murray belonged to. They showed up, took a picture in front of the sign, and were happy to support the opening of the library. We had all ages in the building, checking it out, using computers, finding items that they might want to take home with them and borrow for a while. It was a fantastic day. The love and the support for libraries, and this library in particular, was palpable, and it will be a memory that I think we will all hold for years to come. The next project that you've been hearing about are library lockers. Again, these are pickup lockers similar to the Lowe's lockers or the Amazon lockers, where you can buy an item online and then pick them up without having to be in the store. In the library world, with these, it works the same way, except you don't have to buy anything. You're using your library card to request items that get delivered by our staff to the locker, and on your time, you go to the locker and swipe your library card and retrieve your items from the designated locker. They were delivered on August the 14th, the Wednesday before the Port Royal opening, and then they're in the final phases of being configured. We have one slight technical hiccup before we can make them available for use, but we are actively working on getting that resolved. They will also be wrapped with a library brand and logo, so they won't stay battleship gray for long. And that is the end of my prepared report. I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you may have, and if not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bogaz for the finance report.
Before you do, I just want to congratulate you on a wonderful opening. It couldn't have gone better, and there were so many people there, and the town of Port Royal is just, the whole town is just thrilled. So we're very happy with that. Congratulations on summer reading. I mean, I know you worked really hard to bring those numbers up, and you have done that. I just want to mention that Tracy, who's not here, and she is the trustee, the library trustee that that represents Port Royal, mentioned that she got a private tour by Theona at the library, and the staff is wonderful, and she was, and she said if you're around in that area, stop in. It's a wonderful, that library, and she said there were a lot of homeschooling parents there, so we hope that we can support them as well. So thank you so much, and we will now hear from Mr. Bogaz.
I'm going to move up here because we have quite a bit of material to go through, and there'll be a bit easier to do it in this particular way. I'd like to start with our normal special funds page, and then we'll go through this really step by step. And as I said, there's quite a bit that we have to cover today, so I want to be as brisk and succinct as I can. Starting over on the top left-hand corner, you see that we've received $117,000 this period for state aid. This is one of 4 quarterly receipts that we will have. And if your memory is really sharp, you'll recall that last fiscal year, that number was 105,000. So now it's 117. This represents an increase from 20 to 25 cents per capita given to us by the state. The state, in its infinite wisdom, keeps the population per county constant for the next 10 years. The state has unique capacity in that in these calculations here, they use the census number for the next 9 years. So what we have here is what we'll see into the next census period. The difference is that the increase in per capita amount goes up. So from 117, we've only spent $479 from this amount, leaving a carry forward balance of 116. Moving over to the next side, when we're talking about impact fees, go down to the bottom and sort of sum the total numbers here. We're at about $4.7 million rounded upward. What we did receive in this reporting period is about $45,000 in the new accounts, which are those at the bottom on the left-hand side there. $43,000 north of the broad, $2,000 south of the broad here. So when we take a look at that number, 4.7, we're pretty comfortable with that. Normally at this point, I would talk about the encumbrances that we have, going forward obligations. We're going to cover that in a separate section, so bear with me for a few moments there. During this period, we did have a single expenditure of $105,000 from the Beaufort Port Royal section, which is the old reporting period. Just remember, we have, since the impact fee legislation changed, we have the old reporting side, which is separated into 5 districts. We have the new reporting side in the 2 districts, north of the broad, south of the broad. So those in the old districts really have to be spent first. The $105,000 covers really most of the remaining obligations for the Port Royal. We have landscaping, we have supplies, and also one self-checkout machine included in that number. So 4.7 million going forward, pretty good number there. On the special trust side, we had $884,000 in interest received on the endowment, $136 expenditure from the Beaufort County collection, and about $1,327 donation into the Friends. So that really covers everything that we have here. And I'm going to move over to the next page, which is our budget for the period there. This you see, we have our budget, $5.9 million. This reporting period only covers 2 months. So what we have here is really a very brief, incomplete description of our expenditures for the year. You'll notice, if you go down to the bottom here, we're 16% through the year. We've spent 13% of the budget overall. On the personnel side, where most of the expenditures are really focused, 12% spent, 22% on operating expenses. In the operating expenses there's 2 items which are really noteworthy that I want to comment on. Maintenance contracts, we're about 65% spent, and that's really for the bibliothèque self-checkout counter software, and that's an annual subscription there. And then down on professional services, 79% there. That's for cataloging expenses. Again, a subscription that we have. This is pure timing that we're expending this much, in this first 2 months here. But there's really nothing to jump out again, nothing extraordinary on our budget side expenditures. So let me pop over there next to materials expenditures. And again, 2 months, don't get upset because not much money has been spent here. We've only spent $64,000, most of it again for hoopla. And let me tie in with what Amanda said, that we're seeing really more usage in the digital side of life. So when we take a look at how we're spending our money, and you look at $37,000 spent for hoopla, again, $64,000 for the whole period. Again, this is pretty consistent there. What I do want to point out to everyone here is that when we take a look at materials and we take a look at our full year, so the county has given us $450,000 in our budget line. We're looking at state aid of $468,000. And let's say we got $70,000 from the Friends. We're looking at $988,000 for the year on materials side. So again, that's the full year perspective that I have in mind here. When we take a look at what we've spent so far to date, this is just timing, nothing extraordinary over there. So that really covers what I want to cover on our financial documents before I move on to the next section. Are there any questions here? Anything that I can add or we can add or clarify? No? So if not, let's move over to the capital improvement summary, which I want to touch on here. And what we have is that in early August, Beaufort County issued their capital improvement plan for the fiscal years 25-26. This is a very, very large document, and it's also available for online. So anyone who has intense curiosity can go into the Beaufort County website, download this, and spend many, many happy moments taking a look at this. I did, which says much about me as anything. In this capital improvement plan, there's four items for the library. And this is what I want to go over and explain to you here. Each project, of the four projects, each of the projects has a separate page which describes them. And I have the page numbers noted up there if you really want to go into this and take a look at it. And each page has a full description, the project, who the project manager is, the timing, purpose, background, funding, and the like. And I've kind of summarized that for everyone here so we don't have to spend a great deal amount of time here. And the first one here is really the Port Royal Library. Total project cost $660,000. We spent $505, remaining encumbered, which is really the amount to set aside for this $155. Now, bear in mind that when I put these numbers together in August, that's before these numbers that I just went through on our special funds page were issued. So this is a little bit old. But we're taking a look at the Port Royal Library there. There's a remaining expenditure there of about $155,000. We've already spent $105,000, as I said there. So it pretty well ties in that there's about $51,000 that is left unencumbered in that particular account. Now, from our perspective here, I think a couple things have changed that are worth mentioning. Number one, the amount encumbered for each particular project went up quite a bit from what I have been reporting in earlier months here. So that's a significant change there. The other thing is that having these projects on the capital improvement plan moves them out of what I would call a wish list to really a to-do list. So this is now put in, documented, there are plans to actually do this. And that, again, is significant there. But also bear in mind that it's sort of a projection. We think these things will happen, or the county hopes that these things will happen in this time frame and in this amount. But anything, of course, can happen, and when we take a look at projects, especially major capital projects like this over time. But it's worthwhile for us to know that these things have moved into a more concrete state here, and that there are numbers associated with it that we want to deal with. So Port Royal, done, opened. We have about $51,000 left free in that account. The next one is really Bluffton Phase 2. Total project, 800,000, all of it coming out of the impact fee account. We have at this point, and this number is still current there, about 2.4 million, remaining 1.6, 1.7 million, deducting that. The third one, Hilton Head renovation, which we've talked about a lot over the months there. Total project cost 1.9 million, 800 coming out of the impact fee account. We have about 880,000 in that account, so remaining free 79. And then Pritchardville, when we take a look at that, over almost $11 million, $2.75 billion coming out of our impact fee account. We've already spent, and that money has gone towards the land purchase there, $2 million. So we have a remaining obligation of $750,000. That's coming out of the Bluffton account there. So again, we have 1.6 after Bluffton Phase 2. What's left, there's about $900,000 remaining after accounting for both of those expenditures there. And I would also think that as Pritchardville Library moves forward, that there's going to be, that the county will reach into that $900,000 for other parts of the project here. So when we think about furniture, books, supplies, that kind of thing. So that I'm fairly confident that that number will also be encumbered as time goes on. But what it does give us as the library comfort to know that these things are out there, they're going to be done. The dollars that we had carried forward in our impact fee that were unencumbered are now encumbered. And that gives us the greater security so that there can't be any clawbacks against that. The other thing is really worthwhile thinking about is the timing on these things. As I said, Bluffton is done already. Port Whale is done already. Bluffton, the initial plans are really for doing this in the fall of this year with opening in about a year from now. Then again, it's a maybe. You can't see it happening quite that way. Hilton Head renovation was looking at 2027, 2028 in terms of time on the project. And then Pritchardville is way out there in terms of time. So I wanted to give everyone an update there as to where we are with our project plan, because again, I think this is pretty significant here, at least for us. Okay. So any questions or any comments on this before we move on to the next slide? No? Okay.
Question,
Now-
Joe. With regard to the Bluffton Phase 2, is that with the comprehensive or the capital improvement plan, is that a ranked project or an unranked project at this point? Is it a ranked project or is it an unranked project?
I believe it's a ranked project, but it's not, it doesn't have a project manager assigned to it. It has to get a green light from the capital projects department to move forward.
In the late fall?
Potentially for the next year, but,
Okay, yeah, I just,
Yeah.
that helps with understanding kind of where it is in terms of county priority or,
it has a good priority in terms of the fact that the other part of the building has been done. The question will be, what is the final estimate of the cost? Is it tied to expansion of services? Because if it is not tied to expansion of services, it is not an impact fee expenditure, so then we have to find money for it somewhere else. So
okay.
it's a lot of, like Joe said a minute ago, these are projections and wishes and estimates. And until those projects get the green light to proceed, those question marks become more solid.
I appreciate that clarification on the delineation between the capital side and the services side and how those two things have to all come together to make it happen. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who makes the decision that it should be a green light project? Is that a committee, or is that Chuck, or is
It
that
has
some-
several pieces. It originates with each department head. Myself, I'm considered a department head. My job is to, when, in the budgeting process, capital projects has to get all of the wish lists from every department and of every county. So that's the first step. They find out what does everybody want to do. Then they have to rank them according to what has money, what has a timetable. They rank them according to how they can be accomplished in an efficient way. And then that gets presented as a part of the overall county's budget. Some of the projects across the county need additional funding. Council has to approve that and appropriate that in the budget season. So it's almost like dominoes of things. You have to know what everybody wants. They have to judiciously rank those and then figure out how to accomplish things in the most meaningful way. And then they also have to then get approvals to see them through. A great example of this is the Port Royal Library. That's fresh on your mind. So it received interest from the county in October of 2022. It took a calendar year almost for it to get as approved project with approved money to spend. So then we went into design, and that had to go through a bid process to find the appropriate winning contractor. That determined how much money would be needed for that. We go back to the county to get approval to spend those monies, and then the work has to happen. So and that's just one department in one project. You multiply that by a 230-page document of all the projects. You can imagine that that is quite an undertaking for the county.
Let me add one further thought to this. When we take a look at Hilton Head renovation, which is on page 294 there, the project completion is looking at 2028. Now, that's 4 years from now. Now, a lot can happen between now and then. And the capital improvement plan is going to be updated between now and then. And that date could slip a little bit. So a lot of things can happen, but I think it's noteworthy for all of us here that these projects are now in the plan. There are definite pages associated with them, plans associated with them, and sooner or later it will happen. Sooner, we hope, than later. But again, over the next half decade, certainly anything can happen there. Okay, let me turn on over there to the next page here, next thing I want to talk about. And that's something that came out of a finance committee meeting 2 months ago. There was a lot of concern over the materials spend that we have. Now, every time we come here, we talk about how much more we're spending on materials. And by materials, I also mean collections. It's just another term that is, this is money that we spend for our physical and digital media here, that we circulate out to everyone here. So the question was raised, comparatively speaking, are we spending enough? How do we look in the greater library universe of South Carolina as far as the resources that we give to our citizens here? And I offered to take this on and to report back to it, but it's also an interesting topic for discussion and presentation here, so that everyone can walk away with a feeling of comfort here. And the short answer is, yeah, we're pretty good when we take a look at how Beaufort County racks up to the rest of the state here. But let me go to the methodology so you can appreciate this a little bit. And the answer to this question really came from the library statistics. Now, every year, each library director for the 42 counties that we have in the state has to send to the state this enormous collection of information. So what I've captured here on the first page, because not everyone's going to be familiar with this, what I've captured here is really a screenshot. On the left-hand side, you see all the libraries. So consider that going down 42 counties in length. And on the right-hand side, all the information that's collected. And there's about 150 columns off to the right here. This is an enormous database. Anything that you want to know about the county libraries in the state of South Carolina is available here. And for anyone like Terry who has this insatiable curiosity, this is available for download. Just go into the state, download this, and have at it. So I spent a couple interesting hours with my Excel spreadsheet going through this. And what I did there is really to go into this and pull out a couple pieces of information here. So what I was taking a look at, and the answer is, how do we look compared to other counties here? So we have The first question, how much do we spend in total? How much of our materials comes from state aid? What do we spend on collections total? How many users do we have in our community? And then what is the population of the service area? And you see something that I mentioned before. You see for population of the service area, 2003, 22, 21, it's all the same number here. And that's because the state of South Carolina keeps the population consistent for one census decade. So it changed. It changed in 2019, but for the rest of the time it's together there. And what it was after is a couple things. Number one, how do we look in terms of all of our operating costs compared to other counties? How much do we spend on materials? And material spend really comes from two different areas here. Number one is state aid, and number two, what does the county give us? So the way to get the county proportion, the local community contribution, was really to take total expenditures minus state aid, and that's how much the county gives us. Now, in our particular case, that also includes money that we get from the Friends. And probably for other counties, there's also some other sources of local material spend or local income, but that's going to be minor as compared to the overall total there. And then they came up with some ratios, which again, go to answer the question here. We have county revenue, operating revenue per capita. How much do we spend on collection dollars per capita, and then registered users as a percent of the population. That's, again, important information to kind of have. And I put that together here for 5 years into reporting that is available, a 5-year average, and then the state as a whole for the year 2023 there. And all this information is out there, and you can take a look at this in quite great detail if you wish. And we look pretty good. We're sliding a little bit. Our operating revenue is not quite where the other state is, but all of this gets into certain database inconsistencies. And if you recall, in our case, Beaufort County pulled certain operating expenses out of the capital budget, out of our operating budget, and put them into the county budget. So in a sense, our operating revenue is understated as compared to where it was, and probably as compared to where other counties are. So we're going to have these sort of inconsistencies throughout the thing, but that's the best that we can come up with here. Then the director and I put our heads together, and she identified 3 counties that are comparable to us in terms of size, and that we could use as sort of comparisons for a peer group. Because when we take a look at South Carolina, you have some very, very small libraries, and you have some very large libraries, you know, like Charleston, which are really incomparable to where we are. So this allowed us to do a little bit of focusing here. So there's 3 counties, there were Anderson, Berkeley, and Dorchester. Those 3 counties sort of compare to us in terms of size. So I took a look at, did the same sort of analysis, and then take a look at where they are and what our comparison is. So when we take a look at this, we bring it more into focus here. So for example, operating revenue per capita per citizen, for us is 24, Anderson 29, Berkeley 18, Dorchester 25. So we're pretty comparable. When we get down to collection dollars per capita, you see that Berkeley has $0. Berkeley is sort of an anomaly, and I later had to really drop that out of comparison here because it doesn't serve any purpose in terms of comparison. The 2 comparable counties that we have here are really Anderson and Dorchester, and I put those down at the bottom. So when we take a look at this, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. When we take a look at total collection dollars per capita, we're at $3.70. The average of the 2 of them is a little bit over $4. So keep that differential in mind. We're about 40 cents per capita different from where our comparable counties are. And we're going to answer that dilemma in just a moment here. Then what I did, is to take a look at these counties, the three comparable counties, in terms of social characteristics. How does our population compare? And we're right in there. How does the average educational level for the citizens compare? And we're at the top. When we take a look at the number of households that have a bachelor's degree or greater, we're in Beaufort County, we're at 43, and the rest of them are over 10% less than us. The same thing you have with income. We lead the pack on income. Households with an internet subscription, we're way up there. Persons 85 or older, we're older. So when we take a look at the peer counties, those that we want to compare ourselves to, we are better educated, we have greater income, we have greater access, and we're older. So that should really put us at the top of the level, not really at the bottom of the level here. Then finally, I went back to our more current financial statements. We have year 2023, which is from the report, because the state report ends at that point. 2024, 2025, I added in manually there, putting those numbers in. 2024 is our actual year-ending numbers. 2025 is our budget. And when we take a look at it in that regard, we really moved more towards the front of the pack than to the back of the pack there. When we take a look at total collection dollars per capita, we're at 485 this fiscal year versus 2 years ago for the state, 441. Now, we're still a little bit behind the other two peer counties that we had, which would be Anderson and Dorchester. But I want to point out that in the director's original budget proposal, that gap would have been covered. Unfortunately, it was scaled back, but that's where we are. So we're really, in total, we compare very nicely to the other counties in the state that are similar size, similar structure here. We can do better. We can get a little bit better. And each year, we're adding more and more to our budget. We could do a little bit better to move ourselves up there, and the director's original budget proposal, would have done that. So when we take a look at this, I think we're okay. There's room for improvement, but it is what it is at this particular point in time. So I wanted to share that with everyone because this is really a report that was destined for the Finance Committee, but at the same time, this is information I think is reassuring to all of us, because one of the things that we really report on every time is how much we're spending on money, and it's important to know not just in terms of quantitative dollars, but in terms of comparative dollars where we are. So I hope you found that helpful and useful, and if there are any questions on this, I'll be glad to do what I can.
Are there any questions?
If,
Joe, thank you. I think this is a great report. I mean, it's very detailed, so I hope it helps Amanda when she's going to the budget hearings next spring. So
I'm sorry I didn't have any background music as the director had in her report, but I'll try to do better next time. Thank you.
Joe, you did a great job on that. You overwhelmed us.
While we're on the topic of finance, I wanted to wrap up this section of the meeting with a financial document that I need to sign in the presence of our board. This is customary every year. You just heard about the importance of state aid to our materials budget. It provides, at this point, about 50%, or a little bit over 50% of what we put exclusively towards putting items that can be borrowed either physically or digitally. That money comes directly through the state library, and I have a couple of documents that every year I am required to sign. One document requires the library board chair's signature, and we'll do that in just a second, but I do want you to know what I'm signing on behalf of Beaufort County. The first page, in order for us to get the first state aid this year, I have to sign a state aid compliance certification. And this basically says that I am certifying compliance with South Carolina Code of Laws, Section 61-90, and the South Carolina Code of Regulations, Volume 26, Chapter 75-1-2. I further certify that all funds received will be spent prior to June 30th of this funding year. and I certify that if any non-compliance is recognized, I will provide written notification within 14 days to the South Carolina State Library Director or Deputy Director and request a waiver. That's one thing that I sign and submit. The other is signed by our Chief Financial Officer of the county. He verifies what our current budget allocation is, and if there are any other information that needs to be provided. He has done that. And then I also provide, sign along with the library board chair, a maintenance of effort form. It is an Excel spreadsheet. If you want to see them, you can see it. I'm required to put in how much of our local funding goes towards personnel, information resources, or items for circulation, any other operating expenses, and then I also have to say how much state aid. It calculates this together for me and gives me a percentage of how much is spent towards personnel, towards items or information resources, and towards other operating expenses. There's a target percentage that is supposed to be spent on information resources. The target percentage is 15 to 20%. With the increase in monies of our operating budget towards personnel, we are now at 14% towards information resources, just 1% under the cutoff. So I will be required to submit a letter or a waiver to the state library. This has been done before in our history, but this will also be information I can share in the next budget season to further bolster my argument that I need more money towards materials. So this document, the maintenance of effort that I just explained, has to be signed by myself and the library board chair in your presence. So I'm going to hand this to Lynn for her signature. Right, and with that, we'll get these documents routed to the state library in order to have state aid continue to flow to Beaufort County this year.
Thank you so much. Next, that completes all of the financial work, I hope, because that was a lot. So thank you both for that. We'll do the committee reports now, and the first one is policies and procedures. Tracy is not here, but we did not meet this over the last couple of months since our last meeting, so there's nothing to report there. Janet's not here for strategic planning, and I don't think there's anything to report for there. Joe, request for reconsideration committee.
We have nothing to reconsider.
Thank you. That's great news. Library facilities committee. Bernie, do you want to mention anything about, you
No,
were
I
at
don't
Port
think I
Royal?
can match what Joe went through. Most of us, I guess, were at the opening for the Port Royal.
Yes.
And pictures, and there's me poking over Amanda's shoulder like a little baby, going, oh, what's going on?
Terry's picture there too. I saw Terry in one of the pictures too.
Oh, that's, I think we've covered that.
Right, and there's nothing else going on right now. Liaisons, Beaufort. Brenda, do you have anything to report for the Beaufort Friends? They meet tomorrow, okay. Rosalie's not here. Do you have anything for Bluffton?
Sure. They do have a book sale going on this weekend, so if you happen to be in the Bluffton area, they're having their book blitz going on Friday and Saturday. They've pulled out extra books that they've been storing for a while, and they're very excited to have this special event this weekend. So please go get a great deal on some reading material and check out some other things while you're in the building as well. They will also have their next meeting on October the 3rd.
Thank you. Hilton Head, I'm the liaison for Hilton Head, and they meet next week. That'll be the first meeting after their summer break, so there's nothing to report. I'm also liaison with the Public Library Foundation. They did meet, and they support the Artist in Residence program, which has been very successful, so they're looking at maybe trying to figure out a fundraiser to go with that. Maybe have some kind of a dinner or something to introduce the artist. So we'll I'll report on that if that in fact happens. So that's the committee reports. Is there any old business? Any new business? All right, our next meeting will be November 13th at the Bluffton Branch Library. Oh my gosh, we're already in November. May I have a,
I'll second that.
Second, yes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion, yes, thank you. Oh, it's been a long day. All right. Shauna, are you not freezing?
There.
No.